you see Trey Savage when he was in the building last week?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
You said hi?
I did.
Is he a tall fella?
Extremely tall.
Really?
What? Really? Yeah. No, he's tall.
Because have you ever been next to Alec Manoah?
Yes.
Alec Manoah, I've been next to NBA players. Jonas Valanciunas is ginormous, obviously.
Yeah.
But Alec Manoah might be the largest human I've ever been in proximity.
It's funny that you say that because I kind of felt the same way with Savage because he's big. Like, he's not just tall and wiry.
Yeah.
He's a big lad. He walked through our offices the other day. He was doing something with Rogers, signing autographs, doing little interviews.
I know what he was doing.
What was he doing?
He was promoting a program. I wish I had the name of it, but Rogers has this program where it's like supposed to get kids to take a screen break.
That's actually a great program. They should do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, get outside, do something else.
You think?
And then come back to your Rogers product.
You're doing pretty good. You say no to the boys and you make them go outside a lot.
Oh yeah. We outdoor rink. Yeah, they're tooling around on that thing. Yeah, we do outdoor things.
You think calling that a rink? I would say that's a pad.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to rip my rink, which you've never seen before?
I'm not ripping it. I have seen it. Like I've seen videos of it.
Okay, but you've never seen it in person. But yeah, it's 20 by 30.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's not. It's actually. I was going to say it's not
actually as good as the Olympic.
I was going to say. But yeah, it's enough to do a couple of turns, and they can set each other up for one-timers.
I'm not ripping it. You're misconstruing. You're just
sounded like you were ripping it.
Listen, it's Monday. Everybody's a little tired.
Cranky.
Let's not be cranky to each other. Let's be nice.
Yeah.
We got a full hour to go here. It's a good hour with Ben Ennis. I just was gonna say that saying rink is a little. It's a great pad. I wouldn't say it's a rink. That's all. You're for a semantics guy. I can't believe that you're getting upset at me over a semantic.
I don't think there is like an actual dictionary definition of a pad versus rink.
I think for a okay, sure, fine. You know what? Let's just
ODR. It's an ODR, outdoor rink.
All right.
Anyways, yes, my children love their screens. They watch people play.
I
video
love my
games.
screens too, by the way. Like
obviously, right? That's where they get it from. But no, we take great pains to remove them from their screen. So it's a great program that Rogers has, whatever it's called, and however they do it, which is great.
So
they're doing great.
Rogers doing this great program. Get kids off their screens.
Yeah, call it something else.
Yeah. Actually, it should just be called that.
Yeah.
Everyone would remember if it was called that.
I think it's called screen break.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So he's here. You're right. I've done the same thing. I've done NBA locker room reporting. There's a few guys that in particular stand out. Weirdly, like, the 7-footers, you see them and you go, oh, like you're gigantic. But there is something different about the guys that are like LeBron and Blake Griffin, where they're that size, but they move a certain way and they're as big as they are, where you're like, oh my God, you're as thick as you are tall. Yeah. And Savage was kind of like that too. But God, did Armin and I walk by him? And Armin's like a few inches shorter than me. And I honestly, I felt like we were hobbits. I really did. When we were walking by, I was like, hi, Trey. And when we walked by, I felt as though he was Gandalf when we were in the Shire, and I was like, Gandalf! Trying to do the hug.
Which must make the high arm angle play even greater with like that amount of size.
But the reason I bring this up is because Armin just buzzed in like how he's like, oh, I forgot to tell Benny, he looks like Trey Savage. And I went, I disagree.
Really? I've never heard that.
No.
So the Major League Baseball player I've most heard I look like was Jason Worth. Remember Jason Worth?
Of course I remember.
Yeah, Phillies, but the beard.
Nah.
I've never heard Trey Savage.
That
feels like, hey, generic white guy. You look like generic baseball playing white guy.
This is the McKee thing with the beard.
Yeah.
Because when McKee's like, people say I look like Bradley Cooper. I'm like, who says that? Who is saying that?
I've heard a lot of Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, no,
myself.
for sure. Yeah, no, I've got nothing good. Whoever has a big old moon face.
You have a unique look. No question about it.
The worst one I ever got was I had a girl tell me I look like someone from Criminal Minds. And I Googled the guy because I've never seen Criminal Minds.
And he played corpse number 3.
No, it was worse than that. It's the guy that plays one of the McPoyle brothers in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And if you know who the McPoyle brothers are, it's like the incestual brothers on the show. And I was like, oh, good. I look like a McPoyle.
Yeah.
I look like legitimately one of the biggest creeps that's ever been cast in a role for television. Thank you. So, that's the only one that I ever got. Okay, so we've got these two teams. I got a bunch of stuff for you today. but you and I used to do like the GM confidence rankings, right?
Yeah.
And year over year, it was just Masai Ujiri's award, right?
Yep.
So many years of just, yep, it's Masai, and then it's the rest, and who really cares? We haven't really done it in a while, but you've got two teams right now that are tracking for deadlines in the Raptors and the Maple Leafs, who are in like actually kind of similar positions. Not like, hear me out on this. One is not looking to make major moves. That's the Leafs. That's Elliott's reporting. I think this weekend he had something. I know he hates being misquoted. I have it here. I think it was something along the lines of, nothing earth-shattering is expected from the Toronto Maple Leafs, or nothing that anyone would consider to be earth-shattering. And I would say that the Raptors are similar, that they're actually in a more difficult position because it's way harder to try to add an added piece that makes you feel like a contender than a good team than it is to just sell off assets.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't really know much about Bobby Webster. Like I mentioned this to Grange when I had him on a couple of weeks ago because he wrote that terrific piece detailing what the extension is going to look like and what the timeline is when Bobby Webster is going to re-sign as general manager, but that this first deadline is pretty critical for him. He's going to get credited for the Brandon Ingram trade. He's going to get credited for the Colin Murray-Boyles pick, but he gets credit for being integral in the Kawhi trade and making sure Danny Green was put in.
Mamu is a pretty good signing.
Yeah. Again, like he's done a job that you can't really be upset about.
No.
But it's largely unproven. This is the first time that he's going into a trade deadline as the guy.
Yeah, no guardrails.
Yeah, and most of the rumors, I would say, which are for the large part being pieced together by other executives and other reporters and nothing really emanating from the Raptors themselves, is that this team would be making a move that I believe most people would consider one that is not great. Like if they were to go out and get a Domantas Sabonis type, you sort of got to talk yourself into that thing, especially given how they've looked over these.
He's played, what, like 15 games this year?
And his numbers are all down.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just, if you were giving up an asset to acquire that guy, it'd be, I'm not going to say a tough look because you would play out the results, but I don't think that it would be met with exuberance from the fan base. But then you've got Brad Treliving, who I would say in large part cost himself his job because of last year's trade deadline.
Yep.
Now as the steward for a deadline that is pretty important for the Toronto Maple Leafs if they're going to try to restock the cupboards. And most people are not confident that he is going to do the right things or be able to get the right returns.
Dude, how would you feel about the Leafs right now if just the Carlo trade wasn't made and they had their own pick and they had Minton and I mean, still maybe unproven.
Well, even just having their own pick.
Yeah, no, but like you would say, hey, it hasn't been great. You missed the playoffs. You're the only one to have not made the playoffs with Austin Matthews.
You'd be pretty critical of this offseason, the fact that they replaced Mitch Marner with the three guys that they did.
Yeah, but you'd say, okay, that's not great. Your track record isn't great, but this was probably coming, and it comes for all great teams.
It'd be far more sympathetic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would be far more sympathetic.
It's one move that just has you feeling an entirely different way about where the Leafs are and the urgency and all of that. And it's the Carlo trade and not having your first pick and then having Fraser Minton go off and be, top.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's just you got to relive essentially the Tuukka Rask deal potentially, but with a young centerman.
Yeah.
So all I could think of was a year ago, had we done the GM confidence rankings.
Yes.
I honestly think that some people might have put Brad Treliving at the very top.
Yeah.
And that Ross Atkins would very likely be at the bottom, and we'd be having a conversation around how, well, you still feel really good, even though Masai has had bad years. You're still very confident in him. He's made like a championship level roster. So to not have him be one seems a little foolish when you're comparing him to the other guys. But how quickly the optics, and granted, there are still people who are going to be frustrated with the front office. There are still going to be people who will not give them their proper due when it comes to this World Series run. But right now, it's a bona fide, no doubt about it, that the confidence rankings go number one, a general manager who in this city a year ago, this country a year ago, was a pariah.
Yeah, well, and it's the sustainability of the Blue Jays, seemingly.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we we're already calling ourselves out for being weather vanes from a year ago, putting these these rankings in total reverse. But yeah, it does feel like
that actually doesn't feel too weather vane. That's a year sample. Hey, that's a year.
Yeah.
That's
Imagine it took a year for a weather vane to change.
Yeah, I will say that the Leaf fandom, you get to be a weather vane, and I'm kind of trending a little weather vaney with the Raptors right now, where they had that Oklahoma City win.
Yeah,
and I watched that and I went, God, maybe.
Yeah. Hey,
and
if Brandon Ingram can just shoot 60% from 3.
Yeah, and then I watched these last 3 games and I went, oh, yeah, no, it's probably not going to be the year. So a little weather vaney. But when it comes to the Maple Leafs and their weather vane fandom, honestly, blame the Leafs. This is not on
or the sport.
Sure, blame the sport, blame the team, whatever the hell you want to do. But that's actually one of the elements of this season that's so frustrating is they've either been maybe the worst team in hockey, or they went through a stretch where they turned it around and looked like one of the better teams in hockey. And I don't care about the underlying numbers. Anybody eye test wise watching that stretch, like they beat Colorado. How could you not tip the cap and go, hey, maybe they're doing something here?
Little did we know Colorado would come to the East Coast and then lose all their games. But
But anyway, except for the Leafs.
Yes. Yeah. Other than the Leafs.
Other than the Leafs, who they
stomped out.
Yeah. Who they absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
But the idea that Leaf fans, you go, we are known for, hey, it's a loss, it's tear it down, it's a win, it's playing the parade. But this year is actually really frustrating because you look at it and you go, how could anyone not? There's no person on planet Earth that wouldn't react the same way. Like, of course, there's outliers. But the vast majority of fans would react the exact same way Maple Leaf fans did this year.
No, I literally watched them in that 3.5 week span starting at Christmas to early January. And I was like, there are elements of the way they're playing that is like the most encouraging and most fun Leafs team I'd watched in a decade.
I was having a blast watching them play.
Yeah.
Truly.
Vibes, immaculate.
The vibes were immaculate.
Scott Lawton.
So kind of the point of this, though, is it really like we already know that it comes down to these ultra fine margins when it comes to being a general manager, right? It's one trade that breaks your way, right? How differently is Masai Ujiri viewed if Kawhi Leonard just gets hurt?
Yeah.
Like if that ball doesn't bounce through and the Raptors lose to the 76ers and Kawhi Leonard leaves and the Raptors fans go, Jakob Poeltl's pretty good, and we only got 1 year Kawhi Leonard, and boo-hoo, boo-hoo. You know, I'm not saying it would have been that drastic, but it is a huge tipping point moment where it is this extremely fine margin in terms of the way that we perceive these general managers. And so Webster gets a little bit, he's not really as involved in this conversation because, again, we just don't really know him all that well.
Or at least, I mean, we get the reports of how involved he was under Masai Ujiri, but the proof will be in the pudding.
Yes,
right?
You're going to need to see a couple of years of this. And honestly, I think he is in, out of all the general managers right now, the most difficult position.
Yeah, because this is the first year of this, but it's already expensive, and the way to maneuver to the next rung
That's it.
Seems very. And Ben, so many guys have taken turns being the toxic asset on this team. It was like RJ when he arrived, and okay, now that you see the end of that contract, and like all of a sudden, man, an expiring deal in the offseason for RJ like that maybe that's something you can actually work with. And then it was obviously Emmanuel Quickly with his $32.5 million extension. Okay, but you know, if he can piece it together, he's the only guy that can shoot threes on this team. It makes sense. Now it's definitely Jakob Poeltl, who's 7 feet tall and has a back issue, and his extension hasn't even kicked in yet. Okay, so now you've got to use that somehow as like trade ballast. How do you? And you have to get under the luxury tax because obviously you're not going to be in a winning contention cycle this year. So any general manager with his salt is not going to start the repeater tax in a year like this. Yeah, it's a fine needle to thread.
It's extremely difficult. But in any sport, this is sort of the way that it is like you can get pretty good fairly, I would not say easily, but to become a playoff team now in the era of parity is not really impossible. Like even
some teams struggle with it. I know Charlotte's now won 6 straight, but like, God.
Charlotte is fun.
Yeah, sure. Get into like a top 10 spot first, but yes.
Yeah. The thing is, every league now has embraced parity outside of Major League Baseball. And so you're looking at this and saying, hey, we got a Super Bowl between 2 teams that last year were out of the playoffs. in the NBA, it's never been this flat in the Eastern Conference.
No.
And in the West, the team that we thought was going to be unbelievably dominant and potentially ruin all of the parity era suddenly feels fairly human.
Mm-hmm.
And in the NHL, yeah, okay, the Oilers have the best player on planet Earth, and a lot of people expect them to remain like at least a contender, even with their goaltending issues right now. Panthers are on the outside looking in. It's just the turnover. Look at what the Boston Bruins did a year ago, right? They retooled at the deadline. They sold off like 5 or 6 pieces, and now they're red hot, right?
Yep.
So I don't think that it can't flip pretty quickly. And that's sort of where I'm going with this is we just tend to overreact to general managers. And I'm certainly not making the case that the Leafs have their guy. Like, I think with Tree Living, you can actually pair the Calgary stuff with the Toronto stuff now and go, hey, from a confidence ranking standpoint,
where is the proof of concept?
That's exactly it. Is what is the move or what is the idea that you're looking at and saying, well, this makes you feel really good about having this guy at the helm? I really don't think that there is. With Bobby Webster, it's like, yeah, okay, we'll see it, but you're going to have basically a 2-year runway here to do something around Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram to make people feel like you are someone that is different than just another middle-of-the-pack, decent, good team. Like, again, a lot of teams can do that in the NBA. The interesting one is still what the perception of the Blue Jays is going to be going into this season now, flying high, because you're in a sport where you can spend. Yeah. And I think there'd probably be a lot of general managers who would argue, well, if I got the Blue Jays budget, right, like I could spend a lot of money and I could make a good team, blah, blah, blah. And I saw yesterday, right, Eugenio Suarez signs.
Yeah.
And you see the contract?
Yeah, 1 year, 14 or
yeah, 1 year, I
something?
think it's $15 million.
Yeah, with the Reds?
Yeah.
Back with Cincinnati?
Well, and I also look at it in the light of the Santander signing. Do you not?
I hadn't thought of it. But yeah, Suarez has probably a longer track record of power.
Yeah.
And neither guy really walks all that much. Nobody can play defense of the group. Suarez could probably play left field as well as he can play third base, or as well as Santander can play left field. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, you're not off.
It's not.
You're not off.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. If Anthony Santander, coming off of the year that he just had, would have entered free agency, would he have even gotten the Eugenio Suarez contract?
Oh, coming off the year he just had?
That's what I'm saying.
No.
So where I'm kind of going with this is...
Are we overrating Ross Atkins?
No, no. I'm saying we overrate all general managers and we underrate all general managers, that as much as we should be doing this practice and as much as we have to look at things holistically, that oftentimes it can come down to just one of these moves that change your perception so drastically. Because again, a year ago on this very day, Tree Living was running pretty high.
Yes.
People were coming off of Dubas. They didn't like Kyle Dubas. The Pittsburgh Penguins were in the toilet. The Toronto Maple Leafs were leading the Atlantic Division. They were going into a trade deadline where they were going to be buyers.
Yeah.
When they did buy at that trade deadline, the kind of consensus was, hey, did they overpay? Of course they did. But they overpaid in a market that always overpays. That's sort of the price to play in trade deadlines. They got Brendan Carlo. People thought that one was quite steep in terms of, like, no one was really even thinking about the pick. They were just thinking about the fact that it was the pick and Minton, 2 of your premier assets, going out the door. But it was retention, and it was control, and it was maybe this guy plays with Morgan Riley and sorts him out. And look at where this team is. He had the Stolars contract, which everyone viewed as one of the better deals in the NHL that year. He was riding extremely high. And just how quickly all of this stuff can change. Basically, like, if we're projecting to a year from now, I don't think that it's outside the realm of possibility that the Toronto Maple Leafs have a new GM. And if that's like Doug Armstrong, people are putting him number 1. That Bobby Webster could have a decent deadline. People are saying, oh, maybe he's the guy. And that the Blue Jays, because of the weight of expectation, right, that's everything in this. That it's how you succeed when you have the expectation that kind of puts you in that slot. And now, because the Blue Jays have expectation, there's the largest possibility of drop-off for this power rankings. Like, one bad year could have this turned completely upside down yet again.
Sure. I think, though, what did happen with the Blue Jays last year and getting to within an inch of winning a World Series, as you may recall, was that it put into context the whole Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro tenure, right? Because nobody wanted to hear it at the time when they were not winning playoff games and they were getting into the playoffs with like 91 wins or whatever. That it's like, That was an incredible turnaround from one of the oldest teams in baseball in 2016. They had the down year in 17, but like to turn it around as quickly as they did and become relevant again. Like, and man, the 21 year, if they'd gotten in, everybody was talking about them as being maybe the scariest team in the American League, and they just missed out. And maybe that's on them for not activating a trade for a bullpen piece and one game away. Also, Marcus Semien throwing away the 27th out again against the Tigers that year. Anyways, but what it does is it's like, okay, now we can positively look back on that track record of what we can now safely call success, because we know it gets better than what it was in the past. So yeah, you're right. Like one season.
Yeah, but you don't think that that could be the opposite if they go into this year and they disappoint?
How could it? But they did a thing, right? Like they made it to Game 7 of the World Series.
Of course they did a thing. Of course they did a thing. And just like Brad Treliving would go, and obviously it's not the same going to the World Series as it is being in the second round of playoffs.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, though, that he could say, technically, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Maple Leafs did the exact same thing last year in that they pushed the eventual champion to a 7th game and gave them their biggest push out of any team that was out there.
Yeah. They both won their division.
I'm just saying that
that's
ultimately,
true. They both won their division.
Yeah, you can roll your eyes at that.
No,
that's a fact.
Okay, so I would make the argument then that if Brad Treliving is allowed to keep this job, and boy, he should get credit for this. If they are able to somehow turn this around in short order and get some ready-made pieces in trade for the pieces they're selling off, somehow get themselves into a bottom 5 position that lets them hold on to their draft pick for next year. And all of a sudden they're back in the playoffs next year and like look good in doing so. I think that's the more likely scenario. Cause I don't think the Blue Jays are going to be bad.
No, that's not what I'm trying to outline here. This isn't what is most probable at this point. All I'm saying is that the way that we evaluate these guys, in the moment, a lot of times they can feel very ironclad, where the take is you got to fire this guy. And I'm on that take. I really do believe that they've got to go with a more creative general manager, someone with a track record of success, because they are at a real hinge point in the franchise.
They should take the time that's afforded to them now, between now and the end of the season, to be evaluating who's under contract, instead of like under the gun of, oh my God, Kyle Dubas lit himself on fire. Who's around?
That's it. All I'm saying is all of these guys, Bobby Webster is going from being essentially an unknown into his very first trade deadline solo.
Yeah.
If he botches this deadline, people are going to look at him differently. If he botches this deadline and he goes in the offseason, doesn't really do anything, they come back next year and they're the exact same team where, they can beat up on a bad schedule or a soft schedule, but no one considers them to be a contender and they're kind of stuck in mediocrity. People are going to have their question marks about him. And the possibility exists where if the Blue Jays were to flame out next year, I'm not saying they will, but if they did, all of a sudden people would be looking at stuff going, how could you not have planned better for George Springer regression? Hey, you did sign this horrible contract for a DH who clogged up your roster and gave you nothing in a market where he's $15 million, where Framber Valdez might go for a song, and if Dylan Cease isn't great, like, again, I'm doomcasting this scenario, but that all of a sudden it can revert immediately right back to the bottom, that for a position that is supposed to be exactly the way that you outlined it, which is this big, holistic view of multiple years that Atkins was, that the way that we feel about these guys usually just pivots from basically whenever the deadline or whenever the offseason is.
Totally. I mean, if your point is that these guys think that they're so important and they're God's gift to their sport and nobody could do it the way they could.
That's part of the reason people didn't like the Blue Jays front office.
And they get to ride high and say, see, told you so. But the nature of sports is, it's nebulous and there's a lot of
I just don't think any of these front offices, even with the Blue Jays, where in the position that they're in, get a lot of are in a position where they will get a ton of grace from any of their fan bases based on the way that the next steps go. Raptors, I think fans would probably give the most grace to the Raps just because it is so early in his tenure. And there's a championship, but also the star player is very good, and the Ingram trade has worked out well. And you have time at least where you were sort of not expected to do a crazy amount. Like if the Raptors are just good again next year, I don't think people are going to be flipping out. Whereas if the Blue Jays aren't great next year, people are going to be flipping out. If the Maple Leafs tank this deadline and the Boston Bruins end up with the 7th pick in the draft, People are going to be flipping out.
But is there okay, I'll just talk. You're talking about overall fan perception, and I'm just talking to you.
Yeah, we don't have a front office right now that I think that everyone is ironclad belief in, that they just think like, yep, we're uberly confident in you. We believe that you are the ones, and that is including the Blue Jays being right there on the doorstep.
And you think that as well? Like,
Yeah.
There's a scenario where, 2026, it is sports, man.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's guaranteed. Yeah. Could there be massive regression from multiple and injuries, obviously?
And the Blue Jays are the runner-up right now in terms of the Dodgers for World Series odds again. Like, that's the way they're being spoken about. And I do think that the Yankees, Red Sox, and Orioles are going to be a formidable challenge to win that division again. If they win the division, it's going to be fine. If they end up being a wild card team and lose in the playoffs again,
But, okay, so, like, injuries derail their season. Like, you're not putting that on. You're not saying, well, this front office, they're idiots.
It's not just purely injuries.
No, okay. But there is a scenario where you're looking at this front office and, oh, my faith in you was misguided. I shouldn't have had as much faith in you. Because I think
as much, yes.
Maybe as much, but like I do think the sustainability or the seeming sustainability, and I know they're ranked 26th in farm system ranking, right? But we can all agree that it feels a lot better now.
It feels like they have mobility in the trade market, whereas the years before, where I saw people cobbling together Juan Soto trades, where it was Ricky Tiedemann at the top of the pile with Elvis Martinez. Yeah.
No, you got, I assume Trey Savage is the favorite to win American League Rookie of the Year, who's like, man, the ceiling, I don't know how you put one on him with what we saw in his brief moments in the major leagues. Obviously, Arjun Namala still unproven, but the guy ahead of him in the prospect rankings, your first round pick, like you're finally hitting on seemingly first round picks, even though JoJo hasn't even played an inning of professional baseball. But seemingly there's waves of pitching prospects as well. They got Vlad under contract for 15 years, and you can say any moron could have given him $500 million. They do get credit for it.
They get credit for re-signing him, but when you see stuff like the A's ink Jacob Wilson to that contract extension, again,
let's not compare Vladdy to Jacob Wilson. But yes. Like, absolutely.
The thought is the same, which is that it was always there that they could have gotten it done way earlier at a much cheaper price, which would have given them still more flexibility to spend more money and not eat these luxury taxes that they're talking about. Anyway, it's just I'm just kind of curious to see where we're at a year from now, given that the upheaval of this has been already so drastic. That Brad Treliving may have had the case that he was number one a year ago at this time.
Yeah. You finally gave him a blue line.
Yeah.
They overpaid and gave Chris Tanev too much money, but it's fine. If you get 2 or 3 years out of Chris Tanev,
exactly,
not one in like 9 games.
He came in and he identified that this team was not tough enough on the back end. He got goaltenders lined up. He signed Anthony Stolarz to that deal. He was a buyer at the deadline, and he had to be. They finally won the Atlantic. You could say all about the points and that Dubas's teams had more. That guy won the Atlantic, and people were riding high on him and really loved Brad Treliving. Now they hate his guts. So, yes, the idea that people can't hate the Toronto Blue Jays front office that they already hated a year from now if things go pear-shaped is, asinine, I think, from your position.
They've done more.
Yes, of course.
Way more.
Yeah, so is Bobby Webster.
Yeah.
He's actually done more than those guys.
Yeah, I guess. Not being the guy. But maybe Ross Atkins isn't the guy either.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right, I want to hit a couple of other things. 2, Olympics. So I'll probably get more into it when the events are actually happening. Let's just start with this. What is your Olympic excitement level as of this moment?
Hockey, like, through the roof.
Okay.
Like, having a rooting interest in hockey again is going to be sick.
Yeah, that is going to be great.
It's and it sucks that I thought.
Have you seen the Olympic men's hockey schedule?
Yeah, it sucks.
Okay.
It's like Czechia first, and then it's like Switzerland and Germany.
No,
it's 2 tomato cans. Yeah, it's 2 tomato cans after Czechia. It's powerhouse, no question. Yeah, we have a pretty rough Olympic memory with the Czechs. But yes, no, that sucks, and it also sucks that it's a week from Thursday. Like, I thought initially when the league shut down on Tuesdays, like, it's like they're going right over there, playing right away.
Yeah,
and no, not only are they not playing right away, it's like the best round robin game is the first one.
Yep.
And I think it's at like 10:30 on Thursday in the morning, which is fine for me, but it's not going to be a communal experience. And then France, cool. And then it'll get. So I'm super excited. I got to be honest with you, I haven't thought for 1 second about anything else other than the men's and women's Olympic hockey teams.
Okay. So totally fair position.
Yeah.
And one that I would say most people feel. However,
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but personally feel like this is going to be the end of the Olympics. That you've got, just for hockey, for men's hockey, you've got an Olympics that's showing up. It almost feels like the deck was stacked in Gary Bettman's favor, that this was almost a coordinated attack on the Olympics. You're coming off of this Four Nations success, right? Where people going into that tournament stuck their noses up in brutal fashion. And I'm not doing that with the Olympics, okay? Like, these are going to mean an incredible amount to me. These games are going to be huge. I'm not saying anything of the sort of, well, this is a Mickey Mouse tournament, this is a man-made tournament, all this different crap that ended up happening. And then all of a sudden they dropped the puck against Sweden and everyone went, oh my God, this rocks. We forgot how great international hockey is. But if you're the NHL and you're looking at this right now, you have this hyper-condensed schedule, which is brutal and it's exhausting. And a league that, by the way, is going to 84 games next year. 84.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, 84 games.
It's a lot of games. It's a lot of teams, a lot of games.
Correct. And right now, you're living in a reality where they're just playing too much to the point where it's just, you're being oversaturated with hockey. Even if your team was good right now, I think that you would feel like a little measure of exhaustion trying to keep up with the Joneses. Watch every single one of these games. You're staying up and you're going to watch the West Coast games against the Seattle Kraken when the Maple Leafs are this bad and they're playing 4 times a week. I don't know. Injuries are up. The product has not been as great. It's been kind of flat in terms of, if you look at the standings for the most part, a lot of parity this year. I'm sure some of that is designed to the league, but you could probably attribute some of that to the schedule and how many schedule losses there are now in comparison to years past. And this Four Nations success is looming over you, where it was great. It worked out. People tuned in. You got a ton of buzz off of it from American outlets, which is what you care about, right? You knew it was going to be a smash success here, but the Americans loved it too. They've got these great memories of the Kachuk brothers fighting, and they're holding on to that because they haven't won.
No.
You go to the Olympics, and you've got a gold medal game that's going to be, I believe, at 10 o'clock or maybe even earlier. I think it might be 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And you're playing in a Mickey Mouse arena that looked like, is it built yet? Do we know what the latest status?
They're playing games. I feel sorry for like the 3,000 people who bought tickets who don't have seats because apparently, instead of 15,000, it's 12,000 seat arena.
And they're uber expensive.
I'm sure.
So you've got that. You've got it with your schedule in a way that you didn't really feel comfortable about. And you're going to have a bunch of teams that are playing in this against Canada that, as you mentioned, are tomato cans in France. Is anybody going to be overly excited for the game against France at 10:30 in the morning? I would say probably not. That this is shaping up unbelievably well for, even because if someone like me is starting to feel this way, who grew up on Olympic hockey and who, you and I were in the peak of our lives when 2010 happened.
Yeah.
You were there, right?
No, I was not.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, I thought you were part of.
I did. I went for like a day or two. My dad was still flying.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That this is setting up well for tilting the people who are the most ardent defenders of Olympic hockey to all of a sudden look at it and go, wait, so is there a scenario where you have a World Cup where you bring in Russia, you get rid of the idea of having like the world team that they did the first time they trotted that thing out there, and the under 20 team that made it feel kind of fake, and have it where, I don't know, maybe you have 6 teams and you have, like the World Junior Tournament, a form of an elimination round robin style play where you are in a pool with a couple of teams, right? And I'm not saying Canada wouldn't be in this, or they wouldn't have like a qualifier maybe even, but that, Slovakia and Czechia and Latvia, Germany, that they're all kind of battling for what is essentially that 6th spot. Or you could expand the field to 8 and do the same thing with the 8th spot and have it be a World Cup that's on your schedule, easier to fit into a regular season that doesn't feel like it derails it. But now also the appetite of fans who were saying, well, the Four Nations isn't the same as the Olympics, is going to tilt pretty dramatically based on these results.
Yeah, if your contention is that Four Nations was awesome and let's do more of that. And
I'm saying that it could be at the expense of the Olympics, though, and that for someone like me, and when we always think things are static in the moment where we're like waiting for Olympic hockey. Now we get Olympic hockey. It's going to be in that rink. It's going to be at these times.
Yeah.
The product is likely not to be as great as the Four Nations was, just from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah.
That this is kind of gearing up for everyone to sort of go and say, you know what? As long as we're getting the 8 best teams every 2 years instead of every 4 for the Olympics,
Yeah.
you're not going to sign up for that?
But I think the reason Connor McDavid is so amped to do this for the first time is like he has institutional knowledge, like he has memories of 2010, right?
Of course he does. But I'm saying like that's getting more and more gapped out. I'm not sure what that's going to mean.
Here's the likely scenario that Canada's, hey, maybe we don't win, but like there's some pretty important moments for these pretty important Canadian hockey players in this thing. And then that trickles down and everybody, like it does feel like.
Yeah, but if you're the players and they keep going to you with negotiations and labor agreements, like that's the thing about this one. The players wanted it.
Yeah.
So none of them can complain about the condensed schedule now, and none of them can do that.
Yeah.
But when they're looking back on this experience and they're saying, yeah, that was a lot. Yeah. And a lot of our guys got hurt. And we're now becoming more and more cognizant of how much this can play into our contracts,
but if
how
you're
much this does in our bodies.
Medal, like that's the thing.
Yes, of course, but only one team's going to get the gold medal.
Yeah. And that team will feel like that was the best experience ever.
And if you beat the best other 7 teams in a tournament, and you didn't have to go through France, no offense to France, all right? Sorry, I know your team is like plucky.
Yeah,
I'm just
Cristobal Huet like still involved in some capacity.
But I mean, maybe he's a coach. But I don't think that people are going to need it. I think that the amateurs could go back to the Olympics, and you could end up having a different tournament. And even the diehards like me who said we need Olympics back, might tilt in the other direction.
Here's where I think you're onto something, because I don't think you're onto something here, because I think there's going to be enough experiences, and as Mickey Mouse as it'll be to beat France and the rink and whatever, the gold medal, it still means something to them.
I'm not saying the gold medal doesn't mean anything.
No, I know,
you're making a straw man.
No, I know, but that they'll give that up. Like it'll be recharged the love of the Olympics. I do think so by the players. I think where the NHL missed out, and who could have known? I mean, it was. They hoped the last time that the World Cup was held, the rousing success. If Gary Bettman and the NHL had known how successful that had been, they would have never signed up to go back to the Olympics. Because then I think you can easily make the case that this is better. Like it doesn't get any better than the Four Nations. It couldn't have worked out any better. You're talking about the 3 fights in a span of 9 seconds, and then Canada meeting the U.S. again in the gold medal, like going to overtime. Are you kidding me? You couldn't have written it better. Who is complaining about the lack of Olympics if that's our last memory of international best on best? And it's like, yeah, we don't get the Olympics anymore, but we get that every 2 years?
As opposed to the first World Cup that they trotted out, and I believe 2016, that had, I know some people like Team North America, and it was a fun memory, but having a finals where it was Canada versus the world, or Team Europe, sorry.
It was Europe, I think.
Team Europe. Sure made it feel hollow.
Yeah.
It sure made it feel pretty crap.
It's cool to watch Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews play together on North America.
You didn't even get to see those guys representing their actual country.
We never got to see them play Canada.
Yeah. So I'm just telling you that I do believe public sentiment and sentiment amongst the players is going to be more divided than it was in the era before, where it was heading into the Olympics and everybody was clamoring for this thing.
That's true, because it couldn't have been more one-sided before.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely, now that we have a good thing that happened, it's like, that thing, I don't think it's going to be the majority. I still think the gold medal means something to these guys.
All right. I would guess if someone like me is thinking about this, if someone like me is feeling this way, and again, when I see Olympic hockey, and if we win gold, obviously I'm going to be like, bring us here forever so we can keep doing this thing. I can just see it. I can see the world where they have now been able to go, all right, you did this thing, you played it these times, now your players got to come back.
Yeah.
These guys grind it through a season where they have had to do so much, and they've added this much to their plate, and Gary sits down and goes, is this really what you want? Or do you want it where we design it and it's around our workings and it's at our time zones?
We can pay you. I mean, we're going to take most of the profits, but you guys can have some.
Correct. All right. Let's take a quick break. I watched the Leafs snap their 8-game losing streak to the Canucks in a game where their coach said they would not be denied. And I went, yes. They went to overtime and beat the Canucks. They played a great third period. But I had a different takeaway from that game that I want to do with you. But quickly, it is Maple Leafs game day, so score a Popeye's chicken sandwich for only $6 in classic or spicy. Make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 Popeyes sandwich at a location near you. Quick break. We'll come back and do a little bit of a draft.
No masters know how to live with magnificent disasters. The shiniest cloaks, most coveted daggers. No limits,
So, watching the Canucks and the Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs had an incredible third period against Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if that second goal would have counted if the Leafs would have folded. It is hard not to think about Morgan Rielly's injury. I have a lot of thoughts on the Leafs and the Raptors coming up in the next block. So I'll just do this one with you.
Mm-hmm.
More of a fun one. The serious one's coming up next in the second
Yeah.
hour of the pod.
I'll listen to that in my car.
So I'm watching Elias Pettersson, and he's so bad. He was so terrible in that game that there's that saying of, well, you can't really tank because the players don't tank. Right? Like, the players don't have an incentive.
Front offices tank, players and coaches
Yeah,
don't
players
tank.
and coaches don't tank. And I watched Elias Pettersson, I went, are we sure?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are we sure players don't tank? Like, because he's looking pretty tanky to me. He's the 8th highest player in the NHL.
Yeah.
8th.
Yeah.
And my prevailing sentiment was one that I'd had about another player watching against the Toronto Raptors. Granted, this guy actually kind of dominated them. Of, man, if I had to watch this guy every night and he was my team's star player, I don't know how I would watch my team. Like, I don't know how I would feel doing this every night.
Yeah.
It was difficult to watch him play. And so the game here is good players you'd least like to root for in honor of Elias Pettersson,
Mm-hmm.
who is just painful. And by the way, here's the stipulations, because I did let you prepare for this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just take a bust
No.
like Tua, right? So you can't say, oh, well, I wouldn't want Tua Tagovailoa as my quarterback. It's like,
He's not good.
he's not good. Nobody would say that.
Yeah.
This isn't purely based on, this isn't a bad contract draft, is essentially what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so a lot of guys have really bad deals, but they're not considered to be star players.
Mm-hmm.
The other exclusion from this is you can't take a guy who used to be great, so like Paul George, for example, now, and say, well, I wouldn't want to have Paul George be my star player. Because
Roided up Paul George? Or?
Yeah, roided up Paul George apparently is kind of similar to not roided up Paul George, and that also equally ineffective. So if it's a former star who actually you would have used to want to root for, but now he's over the hill, that's a no as well. I'll let you go first. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys.
Oh my God, I don't have that many. I didn't know we were doing a draft either.
No, it's not a draft. I'm just saying we're going to kind of go back and forth on this. I actually excluded a couple of these guys. I just have cases for them.
Well, I think the face of this thing.
Okay, so you're going with your top dog right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate,
Okay.
because I don't think. I don't know. Maybe you're going to kill me about this guy being over the hill, but this guy feels like when you brought up this topic, there was one guy that came to mind, and that's James Harden.
I have him on my list, but I did have him. He's not excluded because he's still an all-star.
Yeah, I mean last year. Yeah. But yeah, he's 36 years old.
It's a little old.
He's not
But
the
still,
best
like throughout the course of his career.
Because it's everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, one, the playoff chokitude, and two, like the commitment to physical fitness. But not only that, it's like the style of offense is heinous. Like it's awful with the foul baiting and the ISO stuff those Rockets teams did. And yeah, I don't know how you can, man, you're going to impress me if you have somebody that fits this bill more than James Harden.
I have a bunch of guys. So yours, it's fine. I thought there'd be a little bit more creativity from you and like a little bit more individualism than someone who is like universally panned as that guy. But yeah, it's okay.
That's a bad thing.
Right.
Choosing the guy that everybody agrees
he's
is
36 years old. Like it's fine.
Who you got?
Well, okay. So for the NBA, I have multiple players that I would really not want to root for.
Yeah.
One of which I think is going to be controversial.
God,
the
you're
other
such a
one's
hater.
probably not. But then I'm going to work my way up to the king.
Okay.
I had Harden, but he was my last.
Uh-huh.
I have Zion, who is kind of a borderline choice at this point. But
Yeah, he has some of the Harden stuff, like the off the court stuff.
yeah, but to me, that would be the most frustrating thing ever is having Zion be your guy and tuning in as many times as you do, knowing that he's sitting, but then seeing him be completely out of shape and knowing how special he could be if he just cared 20% more. You know,
But when he does play and at his best, electric
Yeah, but that
factory.
makes it worse. That's what I'm saying is like that makes it almost worse because you go, we could have a guy.
Yeah.
Like he could be one of the more guys. Rudy Gobert, obviously. Like who would want to root for Rudy Gobert? He's a crybaby. He's ineffective a lot of times in big games. He's matchup dependent. And yeah, I just don't think that the big, soft, 7'3" French guy who isn't Wemby is the choice for anybody that, like, if Rudy Gobert gets traded to your team tomorrow, I don't know one fan base that would be like, yes, like, we got him. We got Rudy. Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
That was the other player that I thought of when I watched the Knicks the other game, where I went, yeah, I could not get behind this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing.
You know he's sad because they tried to shop him. You know that.
He's soft.
It's very sad.
He's completely up and down.
Yeah.
And yet, even for a guy who gets as many rebounds as he does, people just do not think of him as a tough player or a winning player.
No.
And as much as he was like good in Minnesota, a lot of people still thought after the run they made, hey, getting rid of this guy wouldn't be the worst idea. And they replaced him with Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
So if you got that,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your power rankings are kind of just, yeah, they're right there.
This one's controversial, and then I'll get to my chop choice in the NBA.
I think I know where you're going to go.
Yes.
You're going to go with Shea, aren't you?
No, Shea, I'm the only Shea hater because
I know.
I hate the Oklahoma City Thunder, but no, I would kill to root for Shea. And I've said this many times. Obviously, if he was a Sonic, but if he was on any other team, he'd be my favorite player in the NBA.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. I would still have Jokic one, but he would be two. My controversial choice is Luka Doncic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, not to some people who no longer have
Well,
jobs right now.
Hold on. I'm going to put my headphones on. Armin, no. Armin can pine in on this one because he is a Lakers fan and he does cheer for Luka Doncic. Here's my case. I think that the vast majority of the time he comes off as whiny, and it's not like his trash talk with people I don't find to be like when Kevin Durant does it, I think it's sort of enjoyable. He seems to interact with fans in a way where he'll banter back and forth. He's not trying to get people kicked out of games. Luka's trying to get you kicked out of a game. Like Luka wants you gone and he pouts.
Yeah.
He's horrendous on defense to the point where I really don't know. Like, part of me goes, the Mavericks' thought process was fine. The result was not.
No.
But the idea that they didn't think they could win with this guy is, plausible to me. There's also an element of the way that he got attacked in that Celtics series and kind of folded and took the fouls where you go, all right, he made it to a finals, but he sort of quit in the finals. He's also a guy who's perennially out of shape. And I don't know if he's open to the changes that he needs to make in his game in order to get better. And so whiny, crier, yeah, he scores a ton, and that's really entertaining to watch. But all the other elements with Luka Doncic, I wouldn't want him to be my star player. If I had a choice, like, again,
Dude.
I'm not a big Luka guy.
We just did the GM power rankings. Imagine Nico Harrison comes back around like in 5 years.
Yeah, no, he won't.
Because of the process,
Yeah.
right? That's it. Yeah. Hey, if you had reset your franchise by getting the world's greatest return on one of the biggest superstars.
Yeah, if you set yourself up for multiple levels of draft picks and you got multiple young, good players, a high draft pick. Like Armin, does any of this ring true to you, the Luka pick?
Absolutely. Dribbles the air out of the ball, trots up and down the court. This is how you know, because you have to build a perfect roster around him.
That's what I mean.
For your team to succeed.
But it'll never be his fault, right? Like, it'll never be Luka's fault. It'll just be the guys around him. Oh, they didn't build the right pieces around him. And, like, that makes it even worse. But, yeah, the trotting up the court, the body language, the way that he can just basically quit on some games. Like, no, I just wouldn't want him. But anyways, the king of this, and this feels bad. Luka should have been my number one pick, but it's easy. And he's my number one in all professional sports. It's LaMelo Ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
I just wouldn't want to. Like,
a fun little celebration.
I took Trae Young out of this because I just don't think he's a star anymore.
No,
like his trade value, the fact that he got traded for.
Can we have the nothing of CJ McCollum?
Yeah, it was Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. Like, I can't really put this guy in the category of star player anymore if that's what he's getting traded for with controlling his deal. But yeah, like LaMelo Ball is just as cringy as they come.
Mm-hmm.
He ran over a kid's foot trying to get an autograph.
Oh my God.
His style of play of the step back 3-point shot that he likes to take, where he'll just sort of give up on a play and just fire one up there, would drive me absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
I think that I've watched more Hornets this year than I ever have before because I'm deeply in love with Con Knippel. I just wouldn't be able to do it. Like I wouldn't be able to do every single night watching LaMelo Ball play basketball, and then also have to be like in a city where everyone's wearing his jersey and going to games, and he's the guy. It'd be too painful for me.
Yeah. So these are all basketball.
I have all the other sports.
Okay. I have a couple baseball.
Okay, yeah, I good because I got baseball too. Fire.
Okay, and I know this guy's out of sight, out of mind because he missed a whole year. But Garrett Cole, I would hate rooting for Garrett Cole and the Garrett Cole face and the Game 7 with the Astros wearing the Boris Corp hat and the covering first base or not covering first base in Game 5 of the freaking World Series. Yeah, that would suck.
Okay, so I also wrote down Garrett Cole originally. How could you not? But Garrett Cole is different from me. Garrett Cole is my most hated player in all of sports. There's
all of sports?
Yes, I hate Garrett Cole the most,
Wow.
by far. I have true blue sports hatred for Garrett Cole. Like if you could give me an option of any one of these guys as an embarrassing game, Garrett Cole, number 1.
That is great, actually. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
he's fun to root against.
That's what I'm saying. But if Garrett Cole was on my team and he pitched like Garrett Cole, I'd get behind it. Like I rooted for Marcus Stroman.
Yeah.
So,
well, any of these guys, if they perform and your team does well.
But I'm saying you're taking them as is, though, is like what they actually are today. And I'm saying, at least with Garrett Cole, the jerk face and all the annoying, we will see.
Coming back at 35 off of Tommy John.
Yes, but the sample of what we have of Garrett Cole right now is he is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And if you had him on the mound and he was in a big playoff game for you, you'd be feeling pretty good about that, minus the not covering first base. So I did exclude him simply because I was like, yes, I hate him, and I would feel uncomfortable if he came to my team. But that's not the same thing as I just couldn't watch you play. I would get behind it.
I see. Okay, maybe Carlos Rodon most then fits this bill. Because
Rodon is closer to the truth of this.
Yeah, and the performance at the highest level is spectacular, right?
Yeah.
But also a guy that shies away from the strike zone, gets high on his own supply unnecessarily, and then, just has the whole attitude in that face.
So here are my other guys. And again, they're going to be controversial, but one won't be. My number 1 choice is Jazz Chisholm. Well, it's just like he hit the home runs this year, and he was productive, but he still makes a ton of errors.
Yeah.
He has no accountability. Yeah. He fights back with the media and the fans. He's a powder, and he's paid a ton of money. And if he doesn't play, then he's going to throw a hissy fit. And I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on Jazz Chisholm. Like, I just wouldn't want him on my baseball team at the price that he's at, and I would hate rooting for him, especially given the production.
Did do the team thing of like changing positions without any fight.
Sure. Right? Yeah. My other 2, Kyle Tucker. I just
what a nightmare it would be.
It would have been a nightmare. He doesn't love baseball.
Hates it.
Yeah, he doesn't love baseball. He'll just go wherever he wants. He's just a mercenary. You never feel like he actually cared about your franchise. He just wanted the big bag of money.
100%.
He's going to get hurt, and he had one really great season. Who would want to root for Kyle Tucker? He's very high for me. But no, my actual true answer is Ellie De La Cruz. And I know people think that's nuts because they think about him as he's so exciting. I watch a lot of baseball. I watch a ton of baseball. He is exciting when he gets on the base paths. But the juice, for me, guy had 26 errors last year, led all of Major League Baseball. He is an incredibly frustrating fielder. And if you look at the stats, the hitting stats, to me, they're not, like, he's so good that he's going to require a ton of money. So his next contract is going to be massive. And so Ellie De La Cruz is that guy for me.
Yeah.
I know that's not a choice people would think of, but it is for me. I'm telling you. If Ellie De La Cruz was on a major market team that had expectations,
sure,
he would be spoken about completely differently than he is on a Reds team that's going nowhere.
But yes.
And by the way, watching that defense next year with him and Eugenio, good luck to you, Reds fans.
Sure. But you would agree that there is a point at which the defense gets mitigated to some extent.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not
when you
from
have
that offense.
The power speed combination that Ellie De La Cruz has. I think
go through his error highlight reel.
Yeah, it's probably bad.
It's quite bad. My NFL pick is very easy. I'll just do one because we're running out of time. George Pickens. Like, God, I would just be. I already did the DK Metcalf thing, and it was so difficult. And then I watched DK slap a fan in the face, and I went, "See, Pittsburgh says that's what you get." But George Pickens would be number 1 for me. Anyway, we're running late here, so we got to go. And Elias Pettersson's my hockey choice. So those are my 4. That's my Mount Rushmore of guys I wouldn't want to cheer for. Quick break. We'll come back, and I got a lot of thoughts on the Raptors and the Leafs as they head into hinge moments for the franchises. So I'm going to start with the Raptors and then move into some thoughts that I have with the Leafs. I don't really care about yesterday's game with the Raps against the Utah Jazz. They had to come back. They were really just letting a team that is supposed to be way beneath them at this point hang around. And part of it is because the Raptors just can't rebound. Jazz are killing them on the glass, getting secondary opportunity after secondary opportunity. And so you can point to, hey, they won that game. But, yeah, the prevailing sentiment coming out of these last three for me is pretty clear, which is it's more about the collapses. The collapse against the Knicks, and then the collapse again against another good team in the Orlando Magic. So Raptors are in this incredible spot against Orlando. They're up, I think, 13 or 14 points. RJ Barrett scores a buzzer beater to end the third quarter. And they get crushed. At one point, it was 33-10, and then the game was essentially over, and I stopped keeping track of what the score was. And there were a few pretty major issues that I think that have been there all along for the Raptors season, but are starting to become a little bit more glaring as they move into the most important part of the season right ahead of the deadline. And what will be a second half against some of these teams where they're really battling for position. Again, a good story this year, a positive step forward. The biggest pieces were answered in the sense of, or I guess not answered, but you feel far more confident in, which is Scotty Barnes' progression into becoming a bona fide all-star and arguably the defensive player of the year this year. Again, he was incredible in both of these games. Just the block shots, the timing that he has, the way that he moves his feet, the physicality, the number of guys that he can defend. I did think that Alvin Williams made a really good comment about sometimes a little too easy to get him to switch off of the matchup that you need him to be on. But outside of that, pretty flawless year defensively from the guy. And you're happy where the offensive game is at. Would you like him to shoot the ball better? Of course you would. But him trying to be something that he's not, where he's just flinging a million threes, is a good piece of progress moving forward, knowing like, hey, there's other ways that they need to create. And his main thing is getting into the paint, bullying teams, and scoring. But watching the pieces around them, when they're not getting stops and another team is going on a run, and all of a sudden they can't get out in transition, which is what happened in that Orlando game. You're seeing the pains of a team that just cannot shoot. Scotty Barnes has all the gifts in the world for getting to the basket, and he's a great playmaker. But when you're kicking it out, and it's to wide open RJ Barrett, and he's just clanging away. It's hard to feel like the two mismatches that you can create with Brandon Ingram's isolation and Scotty Barnes' bully ball, that anybody that ends up getting open, what do all teams do? They pack the paint against the Raptors. Then all of a sudden, if they're scoring against that Raptors defense and they're not getting out in transition, they get these runs. And yeah, the Orlando Magic were physical, and I saw a lot of people pointing to that where they went like, hey, the Raptors got punked and the Raptors kind of quit on this game and they got bullied. And when they can't be the more physical team, it's hard for them to imprint their identity. And I look at it going, it's just pretty clear to me, one, obviously they need more rebounding, and I don't know exactly how they're going to address that. I think a move to grab a Sabonis would be too early in the process, and it doesn't paper over enough holes. Like, I didn't watch that Orlando game and thought, hey, man, if they just had Sabonis, everything would be okay. If you just swapped even out 1-for-1, Sabonis for RJ Barrett, I don't think I'd feel a lot differently about this team. One thing that I do feel materially different about is the Grady Dick piece of this. And the Orlando game was really, 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 really bad for him. Again, this team couldn't score in the final frame, and they never even thought about using him, and nor should they have. They used Mamu is a good piece. It was a great ad by the front office. He is obviously a very useful player who they got on a sweetheart of a deal. But when you're having to use him as this guy in so many leverage moments, you see the flaws in his game. He jumps 3 feet high, and guys attack him relentlessly when he is on the floor at the basket. He doesn't really do much for you there. Not a great rebounder. He can shoot the ball, but he's not such a great shooter that you're terrified of him as an opposing defense. You're more scared of the moves that he can make inside. And again, the way that he can play in transition. He's a good heady playmaker, but a fixture to your roster in crunch time, he should not be. And yeah, the Pirtle injury, but like that's just where they're at. So that factors into this. You just don't know with the Jakob Pirtle part of it. The other guys around it, though, the Grady piece is becoming more clear to me. You don't want to like give up on a young guy. You don't want to just say, hey, his career is over, or you want to dump him for nothing. But I'm far less bullish than I once was about what this guy could be with regular rotation minutes. And I don't know how this Raptors team can possibly trust him to play in a lot of those minutes. He'll show some flashes. He's put together some good streaks. Again, yesterday, he's wide open in the corner, and he gets a clean look, and he clangs it. And I go, yeah, it's kind of who you are. I don't feel like you're Duncan Robinson, where Duncan Robinson gets even a little bit of space, and you're going, oh, my God, this guy's going to kill you. Grady Dick's not really that way. Really good shooter, not a great shooter. And the defensive stuff is awful. And to me, the reason why I think my opinion is tilting on him a little bit more is the body language when things aren't going well is tough to watch. He hangs his head. You could see in that Orlando game, Scotty Barnes trying to pick him up in multiple different spots, giving him encouragement, telling him to kind of stick with it. And he's just a matador out there. And then he's taking bad fouls, weak fouls. He doesn't get open nearly enough. I don't know if this is maybe more of a coaching issue or what it is, but I don't find that he moves very well off the ball for a guy that is supposed to be, a knockdown shooter. And on the defensive end, like, it's one thing to not be able to defend in isolation. It's another to let your guy constantly beat you on back cuts and get behind you. Like, that's the one thing you're asking this guy not to do defensively is, hey, don't leave us completely exposed. And he's just done it over and over again. And I like the progression of Jacoby Walter. I'm definitely becoming a bigger fan of his. I'm not really sure what the ceiling is, but at least he can defend. He can knock down a shot. He can get out in transition. He has moments. He has moments where he can disappear entirely. But in terms of him versus Grady Dick, I absolutely know which one of these two pieces now that I think that I'm going to be betting on. But ultimately watching these games, and they were important before the deadline. Sorry. And the Raptors' record against teams above them in the standings and good teams is something that should be pointed to. They're not a group that's ready for an all-in, or I don't want to say all-in because that's not something they would do, but an over-the-top finishing trade. I think you kind of come into the grips with the idea of, hey, man, RJ Barrett can be a good player, but I don't know if he's a fit with this team. They need someone who can shoot. They need another guy who can knock down a shot, and that's just not RJ. And as good as it is that he can attack downhill and create for himself at times, it's not so great that it outweighs the import of the shooting with the other two guys, and the defense that has gotten better and is fine, but is ultimately not A+. And so, to me, this deadline, I don't think you have to really do too much. It'd be nice for them to add a big, but I don't view it as something that's desperate where they should be trying to make a real big push, because even in a flattened East, I don't really see this team making a deep run. I don't. And I think that part of the reason why you don't want to make that over-the-top finishing trade is, you don't have Jakob Pirtle, and you did have all those games without Quickly, and you did have all those games without Barrett. And sometimes it just does feel like there is a bit of an unfamiliarity with the way that these guys play with each other. You saw it yesterday when they're trying to break out in transition, and it looks so sloppy and it looks so ugly. And there was almost this just lack of attention to detail that was extremely frustrating with a Raptors team that, it's getting closer to the All-Star break, but you're right there. You're on the precipice of trying to prove to your team that they need to take a swing. And I just don't think they're there yet. I think that they can be there. I like Scotty Barnes. I like Brandon Ingram. I'm not, as much as I was not a fan of the Quickly contract when it first happened, and I still think that they overpaid him, it's going to get better year over year, and I do covet his shooting. He's not a perfect fit, but I'm certainly not trying to throw him into a trade where you're just dumping the contract or taking back another imperfect player. I think obviously the Jakob Pirtle piece is going to be huge moving forward. I don't know what is going to happen with it, but I'm not panicking right now and trying to dump that and pay extra assets. But where this team is, I just don't have the confidence that you can give up multiple future firsts or even a future first, whatever it is, in order to augment where this team's at. I think their best course of action, personally, is to go into this deadline and to largely stand pat, see how it plays out in the playoffs, and then this offseason, if there isn't something that's presented to you right now that makes a lot of sense, you're moving off of RJ Barrett. You might be trying to find a new home for Grady Dick. And attempt to assemble a group that makes a little bit more sense around your 2-star players, that has a little bit of depth, and continue to develop guys so that when you are ready, or if you look a little bit more ready to make this all-in move, or the over-the-top move is the better way of putting it, that you just have more in the coffers in order to do that. Again, it's not really a disappointing season to me. You found out a bunch, and part of this thing was always going to be, hey, how do these 5 look around each other? And I think you can't really rely on Pirtle. You know, as good as RJ is, and as much as they've needed him at times, that he's probably not a fit from a contract and a style of play aspect. And you're actually going to want more of a youth injection around these guys. You want to find more Colin Murray-Boyles and not move out a bunch of future picks that limit your ability to find those guys moving forward. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Add a big, fine. Flattened East, don't let that play too much into your head in terms of the way that this thing's going, because a lot of teams, now that the effort level is going up, I think that they're going to be able to match that quotient with the Raptors, which is what you saw in that Orlando game. The Maple Leafs. So they beat the Vancouver Canucks, and they had an awesome third period, and I was happy for the fans in attendance because that's a really fun game to be at. I've been in that stadium. I've watched that team play there, and you get a lot of Leaf fans, you get a lot of Vancouver Canucks fans, and as much as Vancouver's hoping for the tank, I think that they're pretty firmly cemented with the worst points in the NHL, that no one's going to unseat them. So they don't care if they end up getting this one win. Leaf fans are just hoping not to be embarrassed and lose their 9th straight hockey game. But the Canucks did serve as a reminder of part of why this team is not going to rebuild, they are going to retool. Because I get a lot of that from people, right? Like, I've been putting out some videos and a lot of podcasts about the state of this franchise and how ugly it is right now, the fan disconnect, the product, the lack of faith in not only their front office, but in some of their stars being able to elevate this group. Like, there's a reason why we got that report from Elliott on Saturday night, which was that Matthews reaffirmed his commitment to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's because they're so bad, people are wondering, people are talking. People are having discussions about what this could look like if Austin Matthews wants out. I got separate thoughts on that, but what I will say about this Canucks rebuild is that is just ugly, ugly, ugly hockey that you were signing up for 84 games. And while there's a conversation to be had about whether that's the best course of action to getting you back to a Stanley Cup, which is, I think, is fair, there's just no reality for me that that's the way that the Maple Leafs are going to do this, that they're going to enter an offseason potentially with a new general manager, and that his move is going to be, you know what, we got to get Matthews somewhere while we can get maximum value. We're shopping William Nylander, and we're trying to build around Matthew Nyes and Easton Cowan. And yeah, we might be one of the worst teams in the NHL over the next couple of years, but that's the price that we need to pay in order to get back to the top of the mountain. Again, a conversation, but one I do not think is going to be taken very seriously. So they are most likely going to retool. They're going to try to rebuild this thing on the fly. It's an ugly position to be in when you're hoping for losses, and that's where I'm at. I didn't want to see them beat the Vancouver Canucks. I thought that that would be an important loss. That 9 straight, the further they are out of the standings, the more faith that you have that they're going to do the right thing, which is trade the likes of Bobby McMahon, explore trades for some of their defensemen, and really take an honest look at what this team needs to do in order to feel like there's going to be more excitement going into next season. Because I'm sorry, I know that there's some of these players that are good, and I went over this with Bourne in the pod we did of the pros and cons of trading the likes of Oliver Ekman-Larsson, right? The pros and cons of trading the Scott Laughtons or the Nick Waws of the world or some of your other younger wingers. But at this point, I just don't know how you could go through this deadline, not try to restock the cupboards a little bit, and then move into an offseason where free agency is pretty thin and say to yourself, oh, okay, well, if they had Chris Tanev healthy, how are you going to bank on that? I'm not sure. Or more games of William Nylander, this team would have been something different. Like, no, we saw it. This wasn't just the Olympic schedule. This wasn't just injuries. It's deeper rooted than that. And I do not believe, as good as they played without Morgan Riley and that narrative is going to be out there, that he is simply the one piece you got to move off of for all of this thing to come together. Also, should be stated that even though the cap is going up and he's making $7.5 million, I think there's 4 more seasons left on the deal after this one. It's either 4 or 3. And the idea that another team is just going to sign up for that or kick him, like go, yeah, we'll take another crack at Morgan Riley. We think there's a lot there. I can't imagine that's true. I don't know who the Sacramento Kings are of the NHL that you think you can just make this trade work with ease, but I'm not as convinced. I hope to be wrong. I really do. I think for Morgan Riley's sake, a guy that as a human being, I root for. I think that Morgan Riley cares. I think that he understands the market. I think that he has had some good seasons and that he overall has been a very good Toronto Maple Leaf and that he's wearing the brunt of this. But I just don't look at it as, well, if you were able to flip Morgan Riley out and you have the same assets that you've got right now, that everything's going to be fine and who cares? Keep moving forward. That's the other thing as to why they're going to retool, though, by the way, is you don't control your pick next year either. So any thoughts of tear it down or move off of major pieces, the earth-shattering type moves, it's hard to justify that if you don't have your own pick and you can continue to get embarrassed that way where that thing ends up becoming a real asset that, yes, people will talk about forever. Look out how much they're talking about the Fraser Minten trade. He's been spectacular. Bukala has pointed out that, yeah, a lot of teams viewed Minten as the better prospect than Easton Cowan and possibly that the Bruins had their pick of the two and took this guy and it might be the right move. But yeah, I saw a quote from Marco Sturm just the other day, or it was maybe even yesterday, about Fraser Minten, where he went, this guy was a steal for us. How ugly it feels, that Brandon Carlo trade right now, how much that's hanging over their heads like an albatross. The idea that they made another horrendous trade with the Boston Bruins that set them up with a future piece that you're going to be watching for the next 10 years and also a draft pick that could result in another great player the way that they got Tyler Seguin in the trade for Kessel and that they also got Dougie Hamilton in that deal. The problem is that the guy that made that trade, the guy who really crushed them at last year's deadline with the moves that he made. Again, Lawton is a little bit more defendable, but you're not going to be able to recoup the same assets for Scott Lawton if you're trying to trade him right now, and you certainly wouldn't even get close if you tried to move Brandon Carlo even at his retained salary. That he's in charge of what these moves are, and it puts you in this really difficult position where you can say, like I did with Bourne, hey, isn't the best thing for his future to nail this deadline? For sure, but you don't know that always in the immediacy. Like, it's kind of rare where you have the trade like the Fraser Minten trade where it's an immediate disaster. A year later, you just know conclusively that someone got worked over in a trade. So for Brad Treliving to go out and not have a job next year and be hanging his hat on the idea that he tried to salvage the season with some trades, I would just imagine that it's human nature for him to go, God, if we're really going to remove this guy, it does hurt our percentages of making the postseason, how aggressive you're going to cut, how much you do want to remove moving forward, and also how much his bosses are going to feel confidence in him. That's why I did the confidence ranking with Ben today is how confident do you feel that Brad Treliving is going to be able to nail this deadline? Because part of the reason why people are rooting for losses, or at least for me, I'll speak just from my standpoint, it's not really because of the pick. The pick would be great if it landed in the top 5, obviously, but that feels like a pretty big long shot. The reason why I've been rooting for the losses is so that they make those, what I believe to be the right moves, which is sell, which is to restock, which is to take this seriously, how far back you are in the standings and not do the faux comeback and not make this, again, exact cardboard cutout of the mid-2000s when the Bruins owned your pick and you finished off in the 9 spot. J.S. Giguère ends up getting hot for you down the stretch and you steal a bunch of wins and you look at it and go, God, what even happened with the season? It's like we didn't even pick a direction. So what is the measure of confidence in that general manager to do those things? I just can't say it's very high. And honestly, like, I'll probably bring this up a few more times. But when I was reflecting on the Minten trade and I'm seeing the Sturm thing about, hey, what a steal he was for us and how he's getting power play time. He's been such an important cog of their team. And Carlo, obviously, not even close to just as valuable as Fraser Minten is right now, regardless of that pick. is how it's hard for me to envision a scenario where the Leafs tried to get better protections on that pick and the Bruins walked away from the trade. In a year where they were retooling, where they were rebuilding, that Brandon Carlo, a fine for the Boston Bruins fourth defenseman, during a retool, and if they coveted Fraser Minton and they believe he was as good as he's playing for them right now, or that he at least had the potential, that when they were negotiating, the Maple Leafs didn't kind of look at it, go, yeah, what do we care? Like top 5, sure, because ultimate disaster, but what do we care if it's top 8? We're going to make the playoffs next year. That there was a hubris, that there was a little bit of, like, dare I say, laziness to that pick protection. And to me, it's like, yeah, you take swings, you make bad trades. This is not the first time a good prospect has been traded at a deadline for a player that a team got desperate for in a contention window. But the lack of the pick protection, you can say it's hindsight's 2020 because now we know in the position that they're in, but how different all of this would be if they had got it top 10 protected. Hell, top 8 protected. And just how much that would shape the way that we're looking at this right now in terms of, yeah, you know what, maybe the Leafs do need to strip this down a little bit deeper. Maybe people aren't talking about the general manager being fired because at least they think they're getting their first round pick this year. But to have those two things in concert and to think, like, again, that Boston was really going to walk away from the table if it was top 8, if it was 3 picks later, 5 picks later, a top 10 protection. That to me is the unforgivable part of that trade that will bother me if it doesn't end up being the Leafs pick. Probably for the rest of my life watching this team, and certainly throughout the rest of the careers of Fraser Minton and whoever the Bruins end up drafting with that pick. Anyways, it is Maple Leafs game day. You can score a Popeyes chicken sandwich for only $6 in classic or spicy. Make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 chicken sandwich at a Popeyes near you. You can reach out anytime on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis. Please subscribe to this podcast on Apple or Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to your pods. Just follow it. Quick break. We'll come back and hit what we missed. I got tickets to give away. Tickets to a show that I hope I go to. I'm really bad at knowing when tickets get released. I don't know how. Are you good at this, Armin?
No, not my thing. Concerts, really.
But that's actually what's embarrassing about it for me is I love concerts and I go to a lot of them. And yet, the amount of times that I've actually known when a thing is going to get released, like the only time I ever did that was Tragically Hip.
So you're just getting gouged on the secondary market.
Every time. And that's why I bitch about it on this show. And that's why I think that they need restraints is because I'm a secondary ticket guy. I just don't, I don't know. I guess people are getting alerts. What are we doing here? How do people know when to do this? I only find out because everyone loves to post when there's a big drop.
Yeah, I guess they're just going on Ticketmaster and seeing upcoming. Like, I don't know, or if they're just diehards, like following them
I get
on
it for
socials,
sports.
maybe.
Like you're watching sports. I got it for the Blue Jays run. I did try to do it for the Blue Jays run. But for a concert, I never know how you're supposed to be on top of a show that's July 18th right now and when that gets. Anyways, I will be getting gouged on the secondary ticket market because I'm definitely going to go see the iconic Canadian rock group Billy Talent is celebrating their 20th anniversary of their sophomore album, Billy Talent 2. And they're coming to RBC Amphitheater in Toronto on Saturday, July 18th. And we've got a pair of tickets to give away. Text the code word RED FLAG to 590-590 for your chance to win. Listen in tomorrow for your next code word and giveaway. If you don't win with us, tickets are now on sale at Ticketmaster. Contest opens to Ontario residents only. Standard message and data rates may apply. Okay, Armin, what did we miss?
Let's start out with some martial arts. Alexander Volkanovski defended his featherweight title, defeating Diego Lopez. I believe it was in Australia, so it must have been like Sunday afternoon.
No, it was Saturday night.
Saturday night?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would have been, Sunday afternoon their time. Yeah,
Aussie time.
because it was normal. I thought the same thing when I first looked at the card. I thought it wasn't going to be – because Saturday I had a Royal Rumble party at my place.
Cool.
A bunch of the boys came over. We do gambling. We do this like where everybody gets a draw of these picks. It was terrible for me. I didn't get a single number in the 20s, which is what you want to have. So I had basically no fun. I was mostly on my phone while my friends had fun watching the Royal Rumble because I don't care about wrestling beyond that gambling element of it, and I had all the worst picks. But then I was like really excited. I watched the Leafs, and then I went, "Oh wait, when's the UFC going to be?" Because it is in Australia, and no, it's normal time. So I don't know. Those poor fans.
They bent the knee for us, eh?
Yeah, they had
Because
to.
Australian Open, there was actually some complaints because the biggest matches were at 3:30 a.m. Eastern. So it was just kind of a combo that's been happening this past week, actually. But I
Yeah,
wonder
you
why
can't
for
do
UFC,
that one though. You can't do tennis. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, Volk wins. He beats Diego Lopez. Uh, my major. I have two pretty simplistic thoughts on this. One is that one thing that I already felt, which is that Volkanovski is he's an all-timer. He's not going to end up being on the UFC Mount Rushmore, but he is just such a great champion. And he really does remind me in a lot of ways of Georges St. Pierre, just from the standpoint of he's not only an incredible athlete who is aging very gracefully, because right now I believe he's 37 years old. And yet it doesn't feel like he's really slowing down at all. This is a much bigger opponent, a young opponent, a hungry opponent who already got a look at him. And nothing changed essentially from the first fight other than he took less damage. But he's an all-time great champion and an unbelievable representative of the sport. And now you look at his resume and it's unbelievable. But to age this well, and I know that smaller fighters, much like the biggest guys, they have a better chance of doing this than, say, like the welterweights or the light heavyweights. But man, oh man, I really watched his performance with a bit of awe, going, man, look at the footwork of this guy. Look at the way that he's just controlling this fight against Diego Lopez, who in his last one looked incredible, and who I felt like, oh man, Diego Lopez has a chance to be a champion someday. Volk is incredible. But the other part is I do have a little bit of disappointment in Diego Lopez from the standpoint of, I know you get reckless against a champion like Volk and you get dropped. And I understand that the takedowns and trying to avoid those were definitely a big part of his game plan. But to me, especially in the final 2-3 rounds of the fight, Lopez just wasn't nearly aggressive enough. And it tilted the way that I view him a bit. I know he's young, and so he'll have a lot of time to adjust. And that's what ends up happening with some of these guys. But man, you get two cracks at a champion. And I felt like watching that, he didn't deserve to have the second title shot. Like I looked at that going, what was the point of this? You didn't really adjust at all. There was nothing about your game plan or the way that you approached this fight that was materially different than the first one. And when you needed a knockout, when you needed a stoppage, you were way too conservative, kind of willing to just dance on the outside and not cut off the ring against Volkanovski and let him basically just work you in a points fight. And that was just never going to be the path to victory for him. So I'm way higher on Volkanovski after this fight. Oh, I shouldn't say way higher. I was already been a huge fan of his. Did make me feel like, damn, I would love to have another great Canadian fighter. Jealous of the Aussies that they have this guy.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a while since GSP now, and it's been quite a while since we've even had really like
a couple big wins.
Yeah, just like but like a really super interesting guy that you feel like is going to be a champion someday, and at least like a multi-time champion.
Yeah.
And so there was that, but yeah, I did come away with it a little more disappointed in Lopez and going, I'm not really sure what your future is, because there's no way that you're getting a third shot against Volk, period. So you're going to have multiple fights before you get another title shot, and it's going to have to be a new champion. But yeah, I didn't like his game plan. I didn't like his lack of aggression. And I thought he fell into the trap of Volkanovski having this great personality, where there was one moment where Lopez like smiles at him, like a big smile in the beginning of the third round, and he's kind of laughing. And I went, dude, you're fighting for a UFC championship right now and an opportunity to beat an all-time great where you make a name for yourself. And yeah, there was like a too nice element to him that I didn't really like to see in that fight. Anyways,
I feel like smiling only comes off great in
like
fighting when you're like so good and dominant, and then you can do that.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Anyways, what's next?
Let's stay with fighting for a second, because this is one of the funniest things I've genuinely ever seen in the field of playing sports. Madison Square Garden, Saturday night, U.S. heavyweight Gerald Big Baby Miller got his toupee punched off mid-fight, tossed it into the crowd. He was a good sport about it, laughed it off, tossed it into the crowd.
Well, yeah, there's only one move you can do at that point. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're trying to hold the hair down? Like, yeah, it's no.
Post-fight, he said it was only 2 days ago when he lost his hair, apparently. He went to his mom's house, and used one of her shampoos. They apparently had some bleach in it, and that's what caused him to lose all the hair, and he had to do a emergency toupee installation before his big fight. Prime time, again, at Madison Square Garden. Are you buying that he actually lost his hair 2 days ago? Or was he embarrassed, so embarrassed that he had to come up with the story? I think it's worse if you lost it 2 days ago.
No, if you did lose it 2 days ago and it was a freak accident, you would just own it. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't know how your mind could go, I got to get a toupee, and you get an emergency rush order on a glued-on toupee in a fight where, your head is getting knocked around, and the thing might not stay on.
Some barber lied to that guy, man.
Listen.
Some barber lied to Big Baby.
Yeah. We now live in the era of the Turkish hair transplant, and there's no shame in it whatsoever, right? People go and do it. Yeah, it's just an expense thing. Like, hey, can you afford it? This guy could obviously afford it. So it does lean some validation that this is a true theory, that he did get the hair destroyed a couple of days before, because why wouldn't he just go to Turkey if this was months and months and months ago and he really cared about his hair that much? Sure. All-time L for toupees? Like, I would say every single bald guy that has ever rocked a toupee, that's their number one nightmare, right? Like, that the thing pops off at an unfortunate time and everyone sees that you're wearing a toupee. And it's not even that you're bald. It's that you had so little confidence in being bald that you went out and got a hair system.
The toupee is flapping around as he had to finish the round.
But that's it. Is like, I don't really care about his excuse. I don't really care about any of that. Like, that's whatever. To me, the greater takeaway is I already thought the toupee was dead. Like, I didn't really think that was still a thing because it's a mocked.
They be getting fades at the barbershop with the toupee. Did you see his Instagram post? He deleted it. He's got faded for the fight.
You gotta.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is it's not, the indictment is not that you wear the hairpiece or that the hairpiece, whatever, or that it looks bad. It's that underneath it, you have to live with that constant fear. And how is that worth it to go out in the world and interact with people knowing that a gust of wind might remove the hair system? And for a guy with that much money, if he cares that much about it, just go to Turkey and get that sucker done the proper way. Get the swollen head, get the horrible flight back where he got all the bandages.
This is the worst hair incident in sports history.
There's some well-documented stuff with Rick Barry played an entire NBA season with a toupee, which is crazy looking back on that he did that.
Not once did he get, like,
I don't know.
So much for the physical 90s. He didn't get knocked in the head.
He didn't play in the 90s, but so he did not play in the 90s. But he wore a toupee. That was like the most famous one, but now this is like without a doubt the most famous. But I would just say that this to me, if I wore a hairpiece, would be an eye-opener of just.
He played 5 seasons in the 90s.
You got Rick Barry played 5.
Oh, I was going Brent Barry.
Yeah. Rick Barry.
Damn, they could both have toupees though.
Yeah.
Oh, Rick Barry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's throwing it back.
Rick Barry wore a toupee, not Brent Barry.
That's throwing it back, man.
I don't know.
See, Rick's days though, they didn't have the installation.
That's why they didn't have high definition cameras. Now. It's fine. He could have had it knocked off and no one would have been, it would have just been like, oh, okay, well, that's what it is. Anyway, bad look for toupees, which were already down bad. But if you were a toupee salesman and you saw that happen, you felt like, probably sell the business quick. Sell the business now because you're about to be blockbustered. What's next?
Okay, you said there was a trend, which I tried finding quick. I couldn't find it, but there was a conversation, a debate this weekend about what order you get dressed in the mornings when you wake up out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, my friend Vic sent this to me.
What was the controversy about this?
It was that not everyone gets dressed the same way, which I find crazy. So the question is, and I'll just ask it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try to do it not in the order I have it.
Okay.
Shirt, got a shirt. Got pants, right?
Yeah.
You're wearing those two things today.
I got those on today. Got the long johns on too.
You got socks, you got underwear, and you got shoes. What is the order that you get dressed in terms of those items?
I go socks, underwear, pants,
Socks first?
shirt. Yeah.
No.
Socks
Wrong.
first.
Crazy.
Yes.
Wrong. Anyways, you're wrong. That's what I mean. I didn't know that this was even a topic of conversation. I thought that everyone literally did it the exact same way and that there's only one way to do it. So you go socks, underwear, what? Hold on. Keep going.
Socks, underwear, pants, because then that determines the shirt. Like the pants are the base of the fit.
Yeah, then
So I
shirt,
go
shoes.
pants, shirt,
You're
shoes.
close. You're close. The correct answer, obviously, underwear 1, socks 2, pants 3, shirt 4, shoes 5. And also, this is like not really good for the Canadians because us having shoes put in 5th, like that's more of an American thing where they're in their houses and they're all wearing shoes already. So like for us, that's not even like, I don't even know why, it shouldn't even be in there. Although I got to say, when you do go to people's houses in the States and you are allowed to wear your shoes in their house, it's so nice.
Just not in my house.
Yeah, obviously not in my house, but like it is.
Oh, it's great.
It's incredible.
100%. I'm with you.
It's not the way to do it, but it is nice. Like I wouldn't choose that, but I do. I'm not as big of a hater as some people are. But yeah, it's
my only argument against underwear first is I don't like. Why am I putting my bare feet up and down to get the undies on?
bare
It's like,
feet.
yeah, it's like I got my socks on first.
Undies on.
You know what I
No.
mean? That it's
No.
cozier.
No, I'm blown away that this is the topic. That this is even like a consideration. That's underwear 1, socks 2, pants 3, shirt 4, shoes 5.
Wait,
And
you go
that's-
shirt before pants too?
No, pants.
Okay,
Pants, shirt.
pants,
Pants, shirt. Sorry, did I say it that other way?
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Pants, obviously, always. Shirt
Yeah.
is always last.
I don't even know what the shirt looks like if I don't have
No.
pants on. You know what I mean?
Shirt is always
I'm
last.
like,
Shirt is always last. Anybody who says anything other than shirt last is out of their mind. Like I can't even imagine like the horrible look of putting your shirt on first.
looking in the
Trade-
mirror,
yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I can't leave
It's an
the house.
awful look. You never want to see that look. I've seen that look on me. It's not good. It's a horrible look. Anyways, what's next?
James Myrtle, friend of the show,
Mhm.
put out an article on The Athletic ranking all home rinks in the NHL.
Mhm.
Scotiabank Arena came in 28th, fifth last. This was based on location, amenities, atmosphere, affordability.
Mhm.
Okay. 80% of the vote was done by fans, thousands of fan rankings. The other 20% was the Athletic's own writers.
Yeah, I don't know how this got weighted so disproportionately with the fan stuff. Like it was 13th by the writers, 30th by the fans.
I'm gonna just go through a few. You tell me what stands out in terms of where they got ranked.
No, hold on. I don't want to go through all the teams. What I
No,
just,
not the teams. Just what the Leafs, why the Leafs ended up
okay, yeah,
being
sure,
28th.
Sure.
Location, 5th place.
Yeah,
Amenities.
location's amazing.
I know. I don't even know how it was 5th.
Yeah.
But anyways, amenities,
Bell
22nd.
Center's great, but yeah.
Atmosphere, 32nd. Affordability, 32nd. Fan score, 30th. Beat writer score, 13th. So
Okay. So,
any of those stand out. I think location could have been higher. Other than that, I don't know.
well, that's the thing is I haven't been to every arena, so I can't speak to location being.
It's almost like how could it be better?
No, it can't. Toronto's location is tier 1. And actually, when
Yeah.
you start going to other stadiums, if you ever leave the city or if you are a sports fan that has traveled to multiple different spots, like that is one of the first things that stands out to you about Toronto is, and like, man, the Rogers Center used to take a beating before the renovations, right?
Mhm.
People were like, oh, the stadium's ugly. Oh, it's from the cookie cutter era. It's an ugly, like gray, blobbish, no personality. They've done a great job in terms of renovating all those fan sections, making it brighter in there. The outfit, it just looks way, way, way. You look at some of those old Blue Jays games now on highlights
Yeah.
and how ugly the stadium was and what a facelift they gave that thing. But my argument was I never cared how ugly the Rogers Center was
Mhm.
so long as it was where it was.
Yeah.
The fact that you could take the GO train in if you lived outside the city or take the subway in and just be able to walk immediately, or if you live downtown, be able to walk up is huge.
Can't replicate the buzz.
Yeah, like I think I've told this before, but like I think about places like Hard Rock where the Miami Dolphins play
Mhm.
and how horrendous it ruins the entire experience. Buffalo got some say. But like when you have to just everybody drive and no public transit, or even with Ottawa where they do the buses up to their arena,
Yeah.
but you just get on a bus and you sit on the bus and you're just stuck there forever and ever and ever and ever. Like it's a nightmare.
Reminds me of an airport shuttle. When
Yeah,
you get
no.
on the bus to go to the plane, it's like,
But this is just so terrible. So the walk-up score could easily be 1. It's like, yeah, you just can't beat it. But whatever. Like, sure, top 5, fine, whatever. It is what it is. This one's difficult for me because the writers have it 13 and the fans have it 30th. And it reminds me of Rotten Tomatoes with a comedy movie where you go, on a comedy movie, I care way more about the fan score than the critic score.
Okay.
Critic score is like irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
If it's a prestige drama, I want the critic score more than I want the audience score. I just feel, no offense to everybody out there, that the vast majority of taste when it comes to something like, I don't even know, I'm just using this as an example, but like Phantom Thread, I'm trusting the critics a little bit more on this one than I'm going to take the audiences.
Okay.
All right? So this case, I think this is actually a little bit closer to the middle, where you go, all right, the affordability is obviously a huge part of it. Like, you can go to an Anaheim Ducks game for a song. But as much as we mock the Toronto Maple Leafs atmosphere, do we really think like the Anaheim Ducks, like, are they, what was the Leafs rank for a fan score in atmosphere? 30th?
We got atmosphere 32nd.
Yeah, okay. So
30th last.
Here's the problem with this thing. The fans that are voting on this, 1, a lot of them are going to want to hate on the Maple Leafs. 2, they haven't been to all the I haven't been to all the arenas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, like, the writers are a little bit better on this because they've actually been to all of them. The problem is they never go as fans. They don't go sit in the seats. They don't have to buy their tickets.
Yeah.
They don't have to go pay for the meal in the concourse. They're not in there rooting for the fans. They're in a very dry press box sitting there and going, hey, this is the way we're looking at it. So I would lean a little bit closer to the writers on this one because they've actually been to all the stadiums. They've at least seen all the atmospheres. They've at least seen all the locations. So you give them that credit. The atmosphere part of it is just tricky because, like, listen, man, I'm not trying to discredit the work here of my boy James, but it's a flawed premise. I think what we could all agree on is that one of the things that they need to do better with Toronto is make Scotiabank Arena a better, consistent environment. And I'm just not sure how you do that when there's so much corporate seating. There's so many people that are going there that are not seasons ticket holders or diehard fans, and that those people are becoming less and less inclined to, say, renew their seasons tickets when the team looks this way and you've had this many disappointments. And more of those tickets are going to corporations. More of those tickets are going to businesses. More of those tickets are going to wealthy people who don't really care, or to resale market. That they're really, it's a pretty sterile environment in there. There's a lot of fans that are trying to root, but everyone knows that it's basically, especially in the 100 level, you sit in a section and you end up with like 1 or 2 people that are cheering really hard, and then the rest of them are kind of in a little bit of a lull. And unless the game's on a Saturday night or a Thursday night, or luckily enough for the Vegas game, like a Friday night where people are getting boozy and it's a high event affair, yeah, it's not as passionate as it should be for a major Canadian market with a uber passionate fan base. Anyways, we got to go. We'll see you tomorrow.